All right. Very good morning, students. Welcome to BB607 Proteomics course. As you have heard some of the distinguished scientists speakers talking about the advent of mass spectrometry and the field of proteomics, the major focus has moved from just identifying proteins, but rather than moving towards more quantification of the protein. So it's not anymore that how sensitive the instruments are and what the parameters of the instruments we can use, but also how best we can try to measure proteins more reliably, how well we can quantify these proteins, how well we can develop some of the assays which can be used for the protein quantification and even probably for the clinical translation value. So all that was not possible earlier, but the advent of newer and newer methods and technologies in the field of different type of mass spectrometry has really lead us to this type of path where now we can do multiple experiments from the protein identification, quantification, and validation. So today the focus of the class going to be on targeted proteomics. And outline is that after giving the recap of the previous lectures, I'll introduce you to this new concept and new field of targeted proteomics. We are going to have a demonstration of a software, very popular software known as Skyline, which is used for doing the targeted proteomics work, and very briefly about Panorama. Also, we will take forward our previous demo session of a Human Protein Atlas and the next plot, and a quiz based on that. So in the course so far, we have been discussing about the broad field of proteomics. Then we narrowed and zoomed into the mass spectrometry based proteomics, protein identification, quantification, and secondary data analysis using different type of software like Metabonalyst, Perseus. You then were introduced about the pathways and network analysis using Reactome, string, and some concept of how protein networking could also be utilized, protein interaction could be utilized to understand the system better. And then we are now moving towards validating our targets and how to utilize the field of targeted proteomics to validate your targets. Again, some of the very interesting softwares will be introduced to you. So question is how to validate the proteins, right? So I'm sure by now when you have been given some data set, you are quite exposed to look at the Metabonalyst and Perseus and Reactome, different type of softwares. And from those analysis, I'm sure you can easily get a lot of information that a different type of differential expression is happening among these proteins. Now let's say you want to pick up the top 5 protein based on the p-values, the significance values of these protein as well as the 4 changes. And now you want to validate these proteins. So what type of validation experiments and techniques can you use to validate these proteins? Let's say these are protein 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the namesake. So let's take some of you and ask this question that what are the possible ways of validating the protein? So Abhinav, can you comment, are you aware of any technique which you can use to validate these protein what you identified from the mass spec? And next could be Anoop to answer this question. I hope all of you can hear me well.
Hello, sir. Yes, this is Anup Shaji.
Yes, Anoop, yes.
Yes, sir. From the mass spec data, if you want to find out the valuable proteins, we can run them through Metabonalyst and then find the p-value and the statistical significance, then shortlist our proteins that we want to choose for the project.
That's fine, Anu. Good. So you have already identified these protein using this approach, which you just mentioned. And now you got 5 protein, which looks very interesting to you based on the 4 chain and the p-value. Now you want to validate these proteins in more number of samples, large number of samples. So what type of other experiments you can plan to do? And while you're thinking of, I think others can also raise hand, those who want to add some comments in the slide. I'd also named Abhinav, if he's hearing me, Devanshi. And of course, then we will talk to Nilesh and Aparna. Anup, you want to say something further for the validation, or should I move to Nilesh now?
Yes, sir. You can move to Nilesh, sir.
All right, Nilesh, do you want to add something? Nilesh, please unmute yourself and then explain.
We can run on Western blots and see using specific antibodies for particular protein, it is overexpressing or not.
Very good. By the way, what is your background, Nilesh?
MS in biology, sir.
You have already done your master's in biology. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Looks like. So have you done some Western blot experiment?
2, sir.
You have done?
Yes, sir.
Oh, very good. Okay. So did you face any challenge while doing the Western blot experiment?
Yes, sir, because sometimes like this blots doesn't get expressed very well. So non-specific binding of antibody is another problem, like major issue. And sometimes one antibody works in one experiment and same antibody didn't works in another experiment, like same
Right.
science.
No, very good. So
Reproducibility is very low, sir.
all right, very good. So can somebody explain very briefly about Western blot, what the Western blot technique is? Ashi or Devargya, anybody else can just briefly talk about what Western blot technique is, because class is having very broad background.
Hello.
Yes.
So,
Priya, yeah, go ahead.
yes, sir. Yeah. So, okay. So, Western blot is basically a technique where we try to identify some particular proteins from lysates collected from some cells. So, first, should I explain the workflow of
No, just
proteins?
Essentially principle.
Sorry, sir.
Principle.
Okay, so sir, from the protein samples that we have, we first separate the proteins from in that sample according to their molecular weight by running an SDS page gel, which separates the protein according to their molecular weight. After the separation process is done, we transfer the proteins from the gel into a membrane, which can be a nitrocellulose membrane or a PVDF membrane. Once that is done, we block the membrane by using skimmed milk or BSA or any other blocking reagent, which is basically to prevent non-specificity. Once that is done, we use a primary antibody, which is specific to our protein of interest that will just bind to the protein that we want to identify. And we incubate that membrane under some specific conditions, mostly 4 degrees Celsius for some 12 to 14 hours, depending, it varies from one protein to another. Under this antibody, once that is done, washes are given to the blot to remove non-specific binding of the antibody or loosely bound antibodies. And then incubation is done under secondary antibody, which has a label, a tag attached to that, which can be HRP or any other like biotin or anything. And once that is done, after a couple of more washes, imaging to get, which shows us a particular band where our protein of interest is present on the blood.
All right, very good explanation about the whole procedure involved. Idea is briefly, the principle is you are looking at antigen antibody interaction, and for doing so, like if you have, let's say, protein 1 to 5, which we are talking here from your data, let's say the first protein which you are trying to validate, you are looking for against that antigen or protein of interest, what is the possible antibody, and if antibody is available, after separating this protein, you are going to probe with the antibody and then trying to look at, is there a specific antigen antibody reaction happening, and can you detect that band of interest using some sort of colored reaction using TMB substrate or different type of other labels, chemoluminescent methods are there as well. So this is in general one of the very popular method which Nilesh and Priya has explained, that how they can use Western blot to validate proteins of interest, which is pretty good start in the class. Now let's say, like, Western blot it is still having a lot of challenges, which we also discussed about non-specific binding and a few other issues. What else can be done to validate your proteins of interest? Let's say the same 5 protein which we have identified from the metabolist. What else can be done? What else other type of experiment can you do? Which is, your family experiment. Do not think about very new technologies and all. Just kind of thing which you are aware of. What else validation things can be done? I think
an enzyme link.
Nilesh, I'll take
sorbent assay.
Sorry?
An ELISA.
All right, you get the right answer again. So good. I was hoping that somebody else can also speak. But just to briefly explain about ELISA, just the principle of it. Nilesh, go ahead.
What, sir?
I think you had explained, you answered for ELISA, no?
No, sir.
Oh, who said ELISA?
So it was me.
Oh, all right.
Tiberg.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, can you explain in a one line what is ELISA?
Basically, once again, it is also an antibody antigen form of interaction to
Right.
distinguish between and to differentiate between the proteins interacting.
Yeah. So, ELISA stands for enzyme linked immune sorbent assays, which is also an antigen antibody reaction, and you are looking at some colorimetric measurement of your antigen of interest. Again, for both of these, which are popular methods, antibodies are required. Anybody else want to add any other type of experiment which you can do to confirm that your proteins of interest are indeed expressing high or having that kind of differential expression? Anybody is aware of any other technique as well? Please raise hand. Yes, Parth.
I'm not sure, but can we do knockdown and knockout experiments, and along with that transcriptomics? That would lead us a better, give a bit better picture as to really are the levels are different between the two conditions, and knockdown and knockout would give a better picture. Yeah.
So I think what you mentioned is biologically very interesting and relevant experiment. Especially if you really want to be sure that what you see the effect of expression of a gene at the protein level, then of course you can knock down that gene and then try to see, like, when you are not having the expression of that protein, what happens in that system. So that is definitely a very interesting thing. If you're putting your bet of your research just based on that one particular protein or gene of interest, I think these kind of experiment to be done. Nevertheless, when we are talking about validation here, validation means you are looking at your top 5 protein, top 10 protein of your mass spec data, and you want to be sure that these proteins are indeed highly expressing in more number of sample. Then this may not be the best strategy, because this is quite cumbersome experiment to be done. Aparna, please go ahead and add.
So we can also use microarrays, to test the differential expression of the genes.
All right, I think that's another possibility which we can discuss as we go along. Dhanush has mentioned something about fish. Dhanush, you want to say what fish is? Fluorescence in situ hybridization. Yes. Dhanush, what happened? You are not able to speak, or you have network problem with the... Okay, anyways, I think you have answered correctly. So other technique which is also quite popular is looking at the fluorescence pattern in the microscopy, and fish is one of the very important technique to look at where the proteins are localized. So, but again, all of these what we are talking, all of these are linked to the good antibodies availability, right? So that is one of the common thread which we can find here. Now let's move on and see the possibilities of validating the protein targets. And so first of all, as we have been discussing about, we are talking about proteomics, what we are looking at large scale protein analysis. We are thinking about the scale to the thousands of protein. And what we should be always be cautious here, despite that we are looking at a very large scale, are we still reproducible? So there are many challenges which are associated when you are looking into this kind of large scale deep proteome analysis, quantitative proteomic analysis. And you have to think about how well you can make your experiments more reliable and reproducible. So this is a good article which you can go through and read about it, which describes, especially today in the video, you might have seen one of the key scientist expert, Dr. Rudy Ebersold. He has been one of the pioneers in the proteomics field. And of course, he gives a lot of emphasis and ideas how to make your data more reproducible, what kind of considerations to be given. And likewise, we have this Human Proteome Organization, or HUPO, which provides a lot of guidelines, and also sometimes different labs of different part of the world being used to do some sort of testing of the samples, common sample being tested in different parts of the world, different labs, to see how close and reproducible that data could be. And likewise, there are guidelines come from the Journal of Proteome Research and Molecular Cellular Proteome. These are more proteomics specific journal, which keeps giving time to time guidelines about what should be your considerations to make your experiments more reproducible, and what will be acceptable data quality which will be accepted for the publication. So I'm just telling you, I just gave you 3 different things very quickly. Look into Rudy Ebersold, some of his papers. Look into the HUPO, these kind of studies which talked about community-based testing. And some guidelines of mass spec and proteomics keep coming in these journals, Journal of Proteome Research, which should be followed. Again, if you're intending to work in the research field, and if also you intend to do some proteomics and want to publish, you can't just do some mass spec experiment and publish that easily. You have to follow the guidelines. So many thoughts comes into the doing the proteome experiment about experimental design, what type of reagent will be best for your experiment, how to acquire the data. You have been exposed mainly this part of data acquisition and analysis part. You have seen that different type of label based, label free, DDA, DIA, many type of possibilities are there to acquire the data. And then finally it comes to validate the data, and of course if you are lucky, can you translate that data to the clinical translation or towards the understanding the biology or clinical problems well. So these are, I think, important considerations for any type of proteome experiment for any system which you are working on. But nevertheless, when you work into more of the clinical sample, then it becomes much more important to validate your targets. Given that there's so much heterogeneity among the each individual and clinical samples, as compared to if you look at the 3 replicates of yeast culture or bacterial culture or a cell line, those can be still much more tight and more reproducible. So one question which keeps coming, that while mass spec can reveal you a lot of proteins and large number of proteins can be identified, not many proteins can be easily translated in the clinics. And why is that? Why that is happening? Like, despite so many proteins could be identified in different diseases or different type of problem, why we cannot validate them and we cannot bring them to the clinics? And this is more so for towards the biomarker translation part, right? So now, as we have all discussed just now, that there are different approaches from the Western blots to ELISA to the FISH. All of these are based on good antibody-based assays. All of these antibody-based tests could be used to validate our targets. Now, if you think about, and all of you who have done some of these experiments broadly, you will start thinking along these lines. That let's say you think about antibodies. When you were to do your experiment for these type of antigen antibody interactions, not only that you wanted to look at the proteins of your interest which you want to work on, but also you were limited with the antibodies which are available in the market. So let's say you have identified 10 proteins from the mass spec which you are interested to validate, and when you start looking at for these 10 proteins, how many antibodies are available in market, and you'll be surprised maybe only 3, 4 of the 10 protein of your interest, maybe only those 3 or 4 proteins for which antibodies are available. Because now you are able to bring in many new low abundant proteins and many new proteins which were not understood very well earlier, or also like some of these may not be commonly used protein all the time. Now the vendors, the mass spec based finding, whatever comes out, what the companies look for from the selling point of view, marketing point of view, they look for making reagents which can be purchased and used by broad community of life science. They don't look at it specifically that you got one very interesting unknown protein or hypothetical protein and one should raise antibody against that. But rather they look for some common protein like housekeeping proteins, GAPDH, heat shock proteins. They will look for SOD, some of the antioxidants, right? These things you will find all the time good antibody. Every single vendor will have the good antibodies for all of these proteins. Like different type of kinases are there. All of those will be easily, you can find the catalog of all the different commercial vendors. But when you start looking at more specifically about a specific type of apolipoprotein variant which you want to look for, a specific type of immunoglobulin protein you want to look for, a specific type of other biomarker you want to look for, you will not find antibodies. So then many times then among your top 10 proteins, now let's say the 10th protein was SOD, superoxide dismutase protein, which is the 10th in your ranking, like based on your high fold change and p-value, the first, second, third till 9th, you don't have antibodies, and all you got is for the 10th protein, SOD, you have commercially available antibodies. So now you are going to validate your Western blot for the SOD, you are going to do ELISA for SOD, you are going to do any other experiment, microscopy based on the antibody availability. And therefore, now you have forgotten about the first 9 proteins, which were quite interesting for you. And you will actually, as a scientist, unfortunately, you will start making all the story and sense of the data revolving around antioxidant stories and based on this SOD protein or what is happening for this particular system. So now you have forgotten about making the best sense of the top 9 protein, but rather you are compromising moving to the 10th protein just because the reagents are available for that and you can validate that protein, because reviewers are not going to let you publish your work without having independent validation. So most of these findings, what people are primarily reporting after validation, are based on the antibodies which are available, right? That's the bottom line. You are actually discovering many interesting proteins, but all those proteins are not being validated because you don't have good antibodies for that. So while you are looking at this kind of data, which you have been analyzing from the MetaBonalyst and Perseus and other type of software, and you can see the proteins have very broad dynamic range. You are looking at good reproducible data. You have probably one of the top hit which you want to validate, but that may not be easy to validate because of all the issues of validating the targets. So, but while I will talk to you about more challenges of doing so, let me be little more positive here that despite all the challenges, still proteomics-based approaches in just in the last decade or so, with mass spec and proteomics being really becoming dominant in the field, has delivered on many biomarkers which are also now have been translatable to the clinics. And that is actually a big boost for the entire workflows and this kind of investment. There are many FDA approved biomarkers which are now coming to the clinics for different type of detection of different diseases, especially in the cancer. Like when women go for the different routine check, if they are high risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, some of these things where you cannot just do the biopsy for doing this kind of testing, but rather if you can have from the blood-based markers, blood-based test, if you could detect some of these proteins early, which could be indicative of the high-risk individuals, then I think you can do advanced tests based on that. So one test just come forward is the OVA1 test and the ROMA. These are quite interesting tests, and similarly now more recently OVA1 next generation test has come. All these can look at the panel of the proteins from the plasma samples of the women who have the who are going for the routine test, and based on the sensitivity of these tests, then one could say, okay, these individuals might be high risk, and now they should be referred for the more advanced test. But look at even at the early stage, screening can be done based on these identified protein markers. Likewise, you are aware of the PSA, prostate specific antigen, and now there is a pro-PSA test is there, PCA3 test is there, and also for the hepatocellular carcinoma, DCP, AFPL3 test is there. So some of these markers and the tests are based on proteins identified and validated from the proteomics workflow. But the challenge comes to how many of the protein which we are identifying can we confidently validate those and take those for the clinical translation. That is definitely a big challenge which we have to address. Now let's go back to basics, what we have been discussing and what what mass spec and proteomics is doing for us. So when we have multiple peptides coming from different proteins, these are different protein 1, 2, 3, for example, and likewise you have 1000 proteins, right? And you are generating these peptides fragments. So you are not identifying the complete sequence. I hope by now we are clear about it, that we are not looking at from the beginning till end the complete sequence of protein, but rather the short stretch of these peptides, which is 7 to 9 amino acid long, at least 7 to 9 amino acid long, or could be longer. These peptides which we are looking at in the mass spec, and many peptides will be coming from protein 1, 2, 3, likewise, right? So you got many peptides, only peptides in the mass spec. So these are different peptides which were generated from your data set of all the sample which you have from the different proteins which you were digested. So question is, when you think about doing Western blot or ELISA, what you are aiming is you are looking at, let's say this protein 1 you want to validate. What you are looking at the full length protein sequence, you are looking at antibody against that, or at least for the major chunk of the protein and the motif of that, you want to raise an antibody and want to validate that. So now your proteomics work or the mass spec work has only given you these 4 peptides, not the complete sequence of protein. Now, why you need to validate the complete protein sequence? Because that will also lead you to the ambiguity, because it is not going to give you the complete expression from this part and on all the other regions. So the idea came that why not validate peptide itself? Why to extrapolate the information from peptide to protein, raise antibodies against protein, and then validate the protein, which is indirect validation rather than we are identifying only peptides in mass spectrometer. Why not only validate peptides? So why not we focus only on the specific peptides of our interest rather than trying to look at the full length proteins and trying to validate all of that? So that's the new concept which was taken forward, and that became very important concept, which became one of the Nature Methods of the year in 2013, to look into how we can utilize mass spectrometers to program them better to detect only specific peptides of interest. Not the complete full length protein, but rather specifically the specific peptide sequences of interest, because that's what you are analyzing from your mass spec data. So just to refresh you what we are discussing, what we have discussed so far, one workflow which we have discussed was about the discovery workflow using label-free quantification primarily, or even could be label-based quantification. And now what we are introducing you is the targeted workflow. So these two are pretty much same sample can be used. You are going to take that proteome from, let's say, a tissue sample, which has 5,000 proteins. You are digesting that with the enzyme like trypsin, and then after digestion, you get so many peptides. Now, these peptides, I said peptides, are the one which you are going to take forward either for the LFQ-based discovery experiment or for the targeted proteomics-based experiment, which is essentially known as selected reaction monitoring, SRM assays, or multiple reaction monitoring, MRM assays. So idea here is, in the complex peptide mixture, you are looking for every single peptide. You want to obtain all the spectra, and you want to look into all the possible matches of these particular peptides, and finally you want to identify the proteins from this data. Whereas in this case of targeted proteomics, you are only going to look for specific peptides, and for doing so, the instrument gets changed. Now, rather than relying on the arbitrary fusion or QTOF type of mass spectrometer, you are going to look at more specific triple quadrupole mass specs, which can define specific peptides. They can select very specifically the specific peptide, because quadrupole being one of the mass filters, it can do the mass filtering very well. And now what you're looking at is specifically only one peptide at a time, and its different transitions of that, rather than in the LFQ, which you are looking at all the possible peptides and looking at all their MYZ values, right? So here you're looking at more quantification data, specific and accurate quantification. Here you're looking at all the protein deep proteome coverage and their identification. So I hope that gives you the broad perspective, and it also gives you the simplified workflow, that the same proteome mixture which you have prepared and when digested, you are first taking forward for the discovery work to identify all possible proteins, and then do the label-free quantification to identify the proteins of interest, the subset of the protein from that. And then you can go back and use the same peptides, and you want to validate those peptides. Of course, you can increase more number of samples, like, this discovery work was done on 100 sample, 50 healthy, 50 diseased. Now you can go to 500 sample, including 100 of the previous one, and you can add 900 more samples and or 400 more samples. So in that way, you can validate more samples in the targeted proteomics. There could be different ways of doing the same idea now, that we are looking at a specific peptides for validation. So we are now moving beyond the world of antibodies, which we have discussed in the class in the beginning. All of your, the previous training and experiments and different region which you are aware of, these are all linked to the antibody-based experiment. Now what we are talking is beyond antibody, but is still trying to validate our peptides of interest, and finally that indicate the proteins of interest, their level as well, and using different type of mass spectrometry-based approaches. So one approach is known as selected reaction monitoring. Broadly, multiple reaction monitoring, you are looking at different transitions of those, and specifically you want to zoom into specific peptides and their transitions. Parallel reaction monitor. So this experiment is done in the MRM-SRM experiment done primarily on the triple quadrupole mass spectrometers. Parallel reaction monitoring is slightly more advanced concept than the SRM, and it looks for potentially all the possible peptides and all possible precursors of these peptides, and want to validate those. So that is in some way HR-MRM, and you are looking at this type of workflow using Orbitrap instruments. Now, a similar concept done very differently using another type of mass spectrometer, which is known as triple TOF mass spec, which comes from the SciEx, and that is known as SWAT-MS, sequential window acquisition of high resolution mass spectra. That is a very specialized technique, which is looking at data independent acquisition. Aim is also to look at every peptide to discover the proteins of interest, but also acquire the spectra and data which can be used for validation also. So this is, but this becomes very one vendor specific, so becomes little more limited in the approach. This is also becomes one more vendor specific, like with the Orbitrap configuration, also becomes more limited in nature. This becomes there are many vendors which are having the triple quad mass spectrometer. This becomes much more generic approach and slightly more controlled experiment as well. So let's focus primarily on the SRM and MRM experiment. All of these experiments which we are talking of validation strategies of SRM or the PRM or DIA, all of these are going to be looking at your reproducibility of chromatography. As we have already emphasized earlier, what you are looking at, how close your retention time is when you are injecting your peptides of when you're after ionization, when you are separating these peptides, you want to make sure that your chromatography is quite reproducible, and from the control sample or the treated samples, a specific peptide should only come to that specific retention time, and you are going to look for the trend of those specific retention time across a different type of samples. So therefore your chromatography has to be very reproducible for doing these type of experiments. So broadly, what we are going to talk now is the targeted proteomics experiment, and this experiment, the sample and the workflow is very similar to what we have discussed about the label-free quantification experiment, but data analysis and of course data acquisition using a software like Skyline becomes slightly more unique and more interesting and challenging as well. So you are digesting the protein, separating the peptides using the nano-LC or HPLC, and then you are doing ionization, these peptides being ionized. Now coming to the mass spectrometer, which is a triple quadruple mass spectrometer in this case. Triple quadruple name is slightly misnomer. You have only two set of quadruple rods, Q1 and Q3. In between these two, you have a collision cell. So in the first, all the peptides are going to come. Now let's say you have defined with the software with the Skyline parameter that you are only interested in the green peptide, right, which is the peptide of your interest, which you have identified from your metabolist or the Perseus that this looks very interesting peptide. So you are saying to the quadruple that only filter this particular peptide, which is the green peptide of my interest, and then you are going to do collision of that particular peptide with the collision cell, and then you are going to look at fragmentation pattern of that in the MSMS level, in the Q3 level, and the Q3 mass filter. And based on these images, what you generate is this kind of selected reaction monitoring trace, looking at the time versus intensity scale of these fragment patterns. So where we are leading now, we are leading to test our hypothesis. We made some broad hypotheses from our previous experiments of discovery work, and then we are thinking how to validate those targets. And I must mention here that Brendan McLean, who is the main person who has made the software Skyline, he comes from Mike McCaw's lab at University of Washington in US, and McCaw's lab has been quite leading the field of targeted proteomics and different innovative softwares and tools being developed in their lab. Also, the Panorama is being developed over there, and we have good fortune of interacting with this group very well. And Brendan has come a couple of times to conduct some workshops at IIT Bombay on targeted proteomics, and therefore we have really been able to spread the knowledge of targeted proteomics in India quite broadly, and large number of students and researchers and people are started using this type of approach. So these experiments require a lot of understanding of your instrument, of your samples, of your peptides of interest, and then only you will be able to test your hypothesis. You need to know what is the retention times of your peptides. Can you use some of the libraries of the retention time? You are generating the data with the label-free quantification, so that data is already acquired. That data could be utilized very well to validate your targeted data as well. So again, spectral library is being generated. You can always start with some broad methods, and then you can refine the methods, and based on those, then you will be having next set of experiment which will be very specific to those collision energy, to that specific type of transition which you would like to use to do the quantification for your more number of samples and independent number of samples. So a lot of knowledge and thought goes into designing these experiments. I'm sure slowly you'll get more familiar when we'll show you the software and the considerations for planning these activities. So broadly, as we said, we are looking at a triple quadrupole based mass spec to do the SRM assays. We have several peptides in the mixture which is going to come, but what we are looking at one specific peptide of interest, and we are first trying to generate data for that specific peptide of interest, and we are looking at what happens to this, let's say red peptide in this case. After fragmentation, it generates the fragment pattern ions, and we are looking at this precursor and the product ions. So what happens to my precursor, which is the red one, intense one? After doing all the fragmentation, what happens, what product ions being made? And this is known as the term transition. You will be all the time being listening now in the subsequent discussion about transitions. So for a given peptide, we need to generate at least 3 transitions. It means we are looking at that multiple product ions to be generated, and you are looking at these product ions from the same precursor, what is their intensities, and you are referring them as a transition. For doing a good SRM assay, it is important that, if you're looking at validating a protein of interest, you should choose at least 3 peptides. If you can validate at least 3 peptides and you show their levels are, very high from the control and disease, then only you will be able to confidently say that this protein is actually upregulated. Now, each peptide should have at least 3 transitions as well. So it means one protein, 3 peptides, and every peptide should have at least 3 transitions. Then only reliably you can say my SRM assay is able to validate my proteins of interest and I can quantify this peptide. So broadly what the concept is happening, you are having, let's say, one peptide of interest, and that one peptide, when it is going to the collision cell and getting collided, now further when you are generating the product ions, there could be multiple possibilities of different type of product ion could be generated from the same peptide sequence here. And as a result, different type of Y ions and B ions will be generated, which is going to generate you different type of transitions. So these things you have to keep in mind as you will be given some more demo in the subsequent session shortly in the skyline. So thinking about doing a good SRM experiment requires a lot of knowledge from first which protein you are going to select, which will be depending upon your previous data analysis workflow, which you have already been trained by now. And also you will look at literature and make, think about which proteins and target to select for. Then which of the best peptides I should take. And you should take at least peptides which are 7 or more amino acid long. You should, it should not be very long either. So you will have to choose some peptide which can be most relevant for your interest. They should be unique peptides, and you have to do the unique checker of the peptides. And then what you are looking at, in the Q1 and Q3, what is the, so in the Q1 M by Z value will be the same, but after fragmentation, the product ion will have different M by Z, and you are looking at different Y ions. What can be best collision energy for doing this type of optimization of fragmentation of this peptide? So you want to select the transitions, you want to select the instrument parameters. And while doing so, again, refreshing you back on your basics, which we talked about N terminal and C terminal, and we talked to you about generation of B ion and Y ion, and those are coming back to you now, that those are the what we are going to look for, different fragments of the B ions and Y ions. And for a specific peptides, when you are looking at, what is the dwell time, which is, how this is what you're going to optimize in your final acquisition for the data. So you're looking at, let's say, for this peptide, you got 4 fragments, and the 250 millisecond is the dwell time for each one of those. So this becomes 1 second, which can be the cycle time, constituting the dwell time from all of these fragments of this particular precursor. So these are some of the terms which you will be coming back and in the data analysis workflow. So Skyline software becomes very fundamental and important, and there is no other competition of this software in the field right now. This is open access software available. Only challenge will be if you want to download and analyze. It should be Windows-based system. It is not compatible with the Mac systems, but you can always have the dual boot in the Mac as well. That's what I use in my Mac as well. So you are looking at different parameters. What is the abundance of the proteins of interest, peptides of interest, whether this peptide is flying well in the ionization, how well I can measure that. It should not degrade very much. What kind of, the digestion efficiency of this peptide is, how to schedule the retention time, how to optimize the parameters. All of these things, considerations, makes your method. So just because you are doing mass spec based validation does not mean that it is not require optimization. It will require optimization at a different level, like you do in Western blot and ELISA, and optimize the primary antibody, secondary antibody, all the different concentration, different dilution. Same thing comes here in a different way, or different parameters to be optimized. Then you run method, evaluate result, refine the result, and move forward. So typically in a given experiment, when you want to do this type of targeted experiment, you first want to ensure your instrument is being calibrated well. You are then looking to some standard peptides and standard proteins of interest like BSA, for example. You want to make sure that is working well. MCF7, which is a complex cell lysate, you also want to look at some of those peptides. You want to take some chemical synthesized peptide known as synthetic peptides. Also want to look at their limit of detection or limit of quantification. These type of things to be done for doing the QC check. The very first thing which you have been shown once in the live class, that instrument calibration is important, and you should be looking into that part before starting any of your experiments. Then let's say for a standard protein like BSA, which all of you must be have used in some experiments in your molecular biology experiments. Since we are talking about one protein, so one could focus, let's say, on 5 peptides and looking at different days at what happens to each of these peptide sequences, or multiple peptide here, which we are trying to monitor. And you can look at day-wise reproducibility of their retention time and intensities, and you are trying to see like, okay, is that coming reproducible on each day? And that means that instrument is performing well and being reproducible over different days, right? And this you can monitor and record the data in software Panorama. Also, you can make the standard curves from this type of known peptides and the proteins of interest to look at your quantification efficiencies of different peptides. If you load only 200 nanogram, or when you load to 1000 nanogram, like your calibration curve for quantification, how well you can get those data to make the standard curves. So again, some of these things should be done. And likewise, then you can take the complex samples like MCF7 or any of the other cell line like HCT or any popular cell line which you are using in your labs, and then try to look at a few peptides of your interest which you want to monitor, and see are you able to monitor those. And if you can do these things like with the standard protein like BSA or complex samples like MCF7 or HeLa, then you should be in a position to move forward and take, okay, now I can do my unknown biological samples and do their targeted proteomics workflow as well. Also, good idea to look at some synthetic peptides and try to run different dilutions of the synthetic peptide in your mass spec and see what is the lowest limit which you can detect. So in this case, let's say you are looking at 20 nanogram to 140 nanogram, and you are trying to inject those and see, okay, can I go even below that, or is that the lowest limit of detection? And then all your sample which you are going to measure will be within this range only. Then you can detect those reliably their quantification values, right? So these are, I'm just giving you some broad guidelines of how to make sure before you come to even running your first sample, what all things you should be doing to ensure that you are ready to do your actual validation experiment. Just because, as I said, we are talking about mass spec, no antibody, that does not mean there is no rigorous process involved. It's like quite rigorous process, many standards to be done. And then one reaches to the different type of MS-based issues of looking at spectral libraries, refining the peptides, spiking in some synthetic peptides. So again, if you are using, let's say, human samples, and if you can spike in one yeast peptide, synthetic peptide, that peptide, let's say in all 100 sample, when you spike in the synthetic peptide from yeast, that should give you some idea that what is the quantification of that peptide across different samples. That should not change. Your human proteins and peptides will change based on the disease expression, but this should not change. And likewise, there's some retention time specific IRT peptides. This can be used to monitor your chromatography. This peptide will only come at a specific retention time, and in all the sample, you will see this is coming only to the specific retention time. So again, you can see there are different type of QC checks required. More accurate quantification peptides are also being coming from the commercial vendors to look for the accurate quantification. So idea is like in any of these type of experiments, when you are first doing the label-free quantification, you are already generating the libraries for, as we talked, every sample you are generating the peptide libraries. And those libraries could again be used back here when you are doing the targeted validation, because you can overlay the spectra for that particular peptide of interest which you identified earlier. And now when you are identifying with the targeted experiment, how well they are overlaying. And then what could be the confidence level of that overlaying, which is expressed in the dot p value, which Medha is going to talk to you shortly. Again, sometimes you may not have your own data from your own experiments in the label-free quantification, so you can go to some of the publicly available libraries like NIST library and other type of peptide atlas. Those resources could be utilized to trying to see, like, whether this protein of interest from the human origin is also matches with the known spectra which is done by somebody else but is available publicly, and can I try to overlay and match that spectra. So in any of these experiments, the reproducibility becomes very important. Recently, we did some work on the COVID-19. I was talking to you in one of the previous classes. I stopped over there with the quantification part, and I said validation I will talk when I reach over there. So today let's talk about validation of some of these findings, how to validate these targets. Lots of time failures happens, which is very routine of doing validation. Only very few times we are happy after finding some target which looks good. So let's and of course accurate quantification can be next thing which you'd like to try closer to the ELISA type of thing when you want to be very precise about knowing the exact quantification of your peptide. So let's talk a little bit more about the MRM assay for COVID-19, which we did work recently. And I'm not going to talk about a lot about our work per se. I'm just taking you as a case study that if now you want to do the real life example, real life disease or sample, what experiment you should be doing. So from the label-free quantification experiment LFQ, this type of data was acquired with the analysis from the severe and non-severe comparison, where different proteins like apolipoB protein, angiotensinogen protein, tryptophan gamma chain protein, serpin protein, some of these proteins showed a lot of difference in the non-severe versus severe group of COVID-19 patients. So then we thought, can we now take some of these leads forward and validate those? No antibodies were available for many of these targets like FGG and AGT and a lot of these proteins. There's no antibodies available commercially. And in the lockdown time, and especially in the time of COVID, of course, even if you have antibodies commercially, you'll not be able to get any antibody to do any experiments further. So idea was, can we utilize our rather than using Orbitrap fusion, which is for this experiment, can we now use triple quad mass spec to validate our targets? So that's where thought was, let's say take one of the antitrypsin serpin G1 protein and try to develop assay for that. Especially we are looking at what we are looking at non-severe and severe. Can we look at again more number of samples of these patients, and can we validate these peptides intensity then and finally the protein intensity for comparing these levels of severity. So we chose few peptides of serpin G1 protein, for example, and this just shows you like how you are going to develop your assay in the Skyline based workflow for the targeted proteomics. You already have idea for the peptides which you have done from discovery work. You are taking those peptide sequences and you are only going to selectively acquire data for these peptides and their different transitions. And likewise for let's say one peptide, you got this type of data which you are going to utilize for doing the quantification. Once you do that, now you can see like what happens to this peptide when I'm running my multiple samples from the non-severe and severe group of patients, and can we see on the same scale the intensities are getting changed and attention time being the same, like it should be the same attention time 5.4 on which this peptide is coming and all the transitions are coming, and what is the intensity which is different in these peptides. So again, if the non-severe is showing low, severe is showing high, it means this peptide is high in abundance in these patients. But while doing so, you are not biased in your sample processing, or you have not wrongly quantified your sample. So you are also running the synthetic peptides. So now the same non-severe and severe sample run, but you have spiked in a chemical synthesized synthetic peptide, which also you are monitoring, and that shows that okay, the synthetic peptide looks pretty uniform in my both group of samples, non-severe and severe. It means we can definitely move forward and do this type of analysis and be reliable about the quantification of my unknown samples. So now I'm just flashing some data based on this type of analysis. Now you have seen like every experiment goes through a lot of these rigor of developing these assays, and then you run large number of samples, and then we validated many proteins from the plasma samples which are showing the non-severe versus severe pattern. We also validated many proteins from the swab samples, which is also some of these are known markers of the clinically relevant tests which are being done in the clinics right now, like lactate dehydrogenase, interleukin 6, some of the C-reactive proteins. Those were already being used, and we were also able to validate in the using targeted proteomics from the swab sample. We were also able to develop the test for the SARS-CoV-2 peptide for the viral peptide detection. While doing so, we may make sure again the QC checks are being done for synthetic peptides, and then we look at what happens to the SARS-CoV-2 specific peptides from the different swab samples, and what is the patients in the high CT value and the low CT value, then the negative, can we look at those peptide profile, and based on 11 peptide, we were able to develop these SRM assays for detection of these peptides. So again, I'm not going in detail about what we did and what one could do in this area, but giving you an idea that even if you don't have antibodies, you can definitely move ahead very quickly if you have access to this type of mass spectrometer to validate your finding forward, and also develop more simplified assays which will be focusing on these peptides of interest. Similar to SRM, as another advancement is happening, which is more vendor-specific, more Orbitrap fusion-specific, or Orbitrap technology-specific, which is known as PRM, parallel reaction monitoring. Concept of MRM you are familiar with now. You're looking at one specific peptide at a time and developing their transitions. In case of PRM, you are looking at multiple peptides, and you are looking at, so you have configuration is here, you have quadrupole and Orbitrap, and you are going to look for multiple peptides and going to generate all of their data in the Orbitrap and going to use for quantification. Slightly more complex than the MRM, slightly less reproducible than MRM as well, and a lot of things to be optimized. Here the idea is you are not going to do a lot of transition selection and optimization which you do in the MRM, but rather you are using a brute force approach of taking every peptide of interest and going forward with all those peptides, acquiring their data and trying to utilize those transitions to look for these quantification. Other software which is being used along with the Skyline is Panorama, which can be utilized to visualize your data, to store the data. In all the publication, when you are going for the targeted proteomics, you have to upload the data in Panorama and provide those data accessibility to the entire scientific community. Other resource which is available is the CPTAC, which is one of the consortium which looks for the clinical proteome tumor analysis, and they also provide a lot of community guidelines, different type of test and the SRM assays, which should be looked into before you start developing your own test, because a lot of things are being done for the community resources from the National Cancer Institute US and other places, which one should start as a starting point, and then you develop a more refined test from your work. So just to summarize, what we spoke today was something moving beyond the discovery work. We thought about taking the targeted approaches to validate our peptides and proteins of interest, and given the wide dynamic range of the proteins, it is very difficult to really develop this type of test, but if you can develop them with these kind of specific parameters, they can be very reproducible and repeatable, and a lot of knowledge and method refinement required to develop these type of selected reaction monitoring assays. Sometimes you will be challenged with the limitation of the triple quad resolution, which is not as high as compared to your other different mass analyzers. Multiplexing capacity is another thing, like every peptide can generate many transitions, and if the longer the peptide and more Y ions you take, more the number of transitions will be generated. In a single run with our best mass spec which we have, even with that we can do only a maximum 500 transitions per run, which we can compare and analyze. So again, if you have, let's say, 500 peptides to be analyzed, you are probably looking at maybe a couple of thousands of transitions. So you have to do many injections, many runs to validate all your peptides of interest. Just to sum up, and before we move to the Skyline session shortly, I have made slight change looking at your quizzes, and some of you had faced the problems of being online in the defined time, the quizzes, software-based quizzes. So what we are going to do, we are going to take 6 best quizzes out of 9. So today will be 8th quiz, and we have one more in the next class. But we will take your best 6 performance of the 9 quizzes, which will give you 18 marks, right? So it means slightly less than what you would have thought in the beginning, and that could be a big relief as well to some of you who may not, who have missed out some quizzes based on your network connectivity and all. But we are going to add those in the mid-sem, and mid-sem earlier I mentioned these 3 lectures, but now I have added 2 more lectures. Today's lecture, targeted proteomics, and next lecture will be on the sample prep. Even those will be part of the mid-sem along with the other 3. So total 5 lectures will be part of the mid-sem, which will give you 24 marks. All right, that's all from my side right now. We will have a couple of review session on the HPA shortly. But before that, let's move on to the hands-on exercise of a new software, Skyline, which you can be exposed from one of my PhD student, Medha, who is pretty good in doing this analysis right now. And she can give you the, at least a demonstration of the Skyline session right now. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. If any questions, You can type in the chat. We are running short of time. I really exceeded my time, which was allotted to me. But I'll be happy to take any question on the chat. But let Medha quickly go to the Skyline and talk to you about how to do analysis using targeted proteomics workflow. I hope all of you are able to get my mail on time and already downloaded the files which I have given in the link of the Google Drive link, which is have all these content which Medha is going to talk to you. All right, Medha, over to you. Please do the demonstration.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Medha and I'll be taking the Skyline session. So as sir has already explained, Skyline was developed by the MECOS lab, and how I will show you briefly how to download the software so that you can get started on it. So first you can type Skyline MS on Google, then you can go to this link. So here I've opened this page. As you can see, you can download two versions of the software. The first is the Skyline basic version, and then there is a Skyline daily version. The daily version is the beta version, and it gets more recent updates. Depending on what you prefer, you can download it. So here right now I'm trying to download Skyline only. So here you can click on I agree. Once you click on I agree, you might have to sign in or something like that. Then you install the Skyline. You can click here and the Skyline software will get downloaded. I'm not downloading it right now because I already have. Also download the skylinerunner.exe. Once that is run, you can run this software and it will be ready to go. In the link that I have shared, if you can see the exercise file link, there I have given in the instruction for installation of the software, the detailed instructions we have given in the form of a document. You can follow this, and I think it will be easy for you to download and set up the software. So once I have the software here, I am just going to go over over a few basics. So here you can see in the demo files that you might have downloaded by now, we go step by step. So our aim for today was to make a transition list. So to do that, first you need to understand how the software functions. So now we have downloaded and installed the software. You open a blank Skyline document in the proteomics interface, and okay, I'll show you how to do that. Once your Skyline is in my PC, I have Skyline daily, but if you have installed Skyline, there is not much difference except for the part that one is beta version and one is a stable version. This screen comes. You have to go to a blank document. Once you open a blank document, it will look like this. This particular window is the target window where you feed in the targets that you will be using in your experiment. And here there are various functions and tools. You can go through each tab carefully. I am going to just cover briefly about the settings, especially the peptide and transition settings. So we need to tell the software what kind of how it should treat the proteins or peptides that we are inserting. So in our experiment, we are using trypsin. So here again, enzyme we will be using it be trypsin, and we'll add a background proteome. So I'll tell you later on how to make the background proteome. It is a similar concept to other softwares, but here you have to make it in the format that this particular software understands. You can download the database from anywhere online available and then convert into .protdb file format that you have to do by going to add, and you can create the background proteome. I'll explain that in detail later. So then there are other tabs here like prediction, filter, etc. So in the filter settings for the peptide, you are telling what the length of the peptide will be, how the peptide will be, whether there will be any modifications in the peptides. In the library, whenever you are using a library, you need to ensure that you have added the library here. In your case, this might come empty. Whichever libraries are saved in MyPC would be available here. Then if you are adding any particular peptides that you know have certain modifications, you have to mention them here. So we usually add carbamidomethyl modification. If you are using, as sir has said, if you are spiking in heavy labeled synthetic peptides, then you will be adding these kind of modifications where the C terminal is heavy labeled. And this particular tab is used for quantification, but I don't think it will be relevant for you guys right now. Then in the transition settings, again, you are telling the software what kind of transitions you want from the particular protein or peptide you are inserting. So here we keep most of the things default. One thing to see again here is the filter settings. So you can take precursor charges 2 and 3 or just 2 depending on how long your transition list is going. And the ion charges can be 1, just simply 1 or 1 or 2. This depends on how you are doing the experiment and what you feel are the best parameters for you. We usually monitor Y ions only because they are more intense and they are the ones better monitored. You can also monitor B ions if you are interested. Then product ion selection, whether from which ion to which ion the instrument should look for, that is also to be filled in here. Whether you want to filter out your transitions based on the library, that can also be said, but we are keeping it default here, not unchecked. Then there are a few tabs that are not relevant for you right now, so you will keep everything else as default and you can click on OK. So after doing that, you have to just go to edit, insert, proteins or peptides depending on the type of input you have. So for our case, if we have proteins, I go back to the transition list preparation here. Since I have already added a background proteome, I just need the accession numbers of the proteins that I'm interested in. So I will copy them, Control C, and I'll copy that here. So here it gets inserted. It has mapped the accession IDs to the particular background proteome, and it is telling that this is such and such protein, and it has got us the sequence. Now, according to the settings that we have put in the peptide and transition settings, it will break this protein and give us the unique peptide. I am saying insert. Just a second. Yeah. So now it has inserted, and you can see for every protein there are a few unique peptides that it has been able to give. And for each peptide, there are 1 or 2 precursors depending on what I have kept for the settings. Here we have kept 1 precursor and +1 charge. So this would be it. To prepare a transition list, you have input the proteins now. You have, what did you do? You installed the Skyline software. You went through the settings. You made sure that the settings were according to what you felt were the most optimal for your experiment. Then you went to the edit, insert, proteins, and you inserted your protein targets here. It takes maps it to the background proteome you have already added, and this is your background proteome. This is your target list. Now you have to export it in a form that the instrument understands. So what you will do, you can see that for the 4 proteins that we have inserted here in this corner, you can see for the 4 proteins we have inserted, we get 31 unique peptides, which are having 31 precursors because we have only kept 1 precursor per peptide, and total 249 transitions. This can be more depending on the transition settings that you are keeping. Now you need to export this transition list. So you will go to File, Export, Transition List. Depending on the instrument that you are using, we use Thermo Altus. You say single method since there are very less transitions. If there are more than 350 or more transitions, such that your instrument is not capable of handling so many transitions, then you can export it into multiple methods. If you are aware of the RTs related to your being used in the method for your instrument, then you can give details about that here, or else not. Then you say okay. The collision energy will be predicted by the Skyline software algorithm, and you are okay with it because we don't have any idea of what the collision energy we are looking for. So we just, the Skyline software has been trained to predict this. So you can just click on yes. And you can say transition list and save it wherever you find it to be appropriate for you. So I'm saving it here. So I'll just show you how this list looks like. So this is a transition list. It comes in .csv format. I'm opening it. So here the first column will show about the compound, the details of the compound. Then the start and end RTs if you have entered, the polarity of the instrument, then precursor M by Z, product M by Z, and followed by collision energy. This is all the information the instrument needs to run your list and get you the data. So this is what you need to do before you start your targeted experiment. So I think that is how that is an overview of how you create a transition list. Because I was not clear about how to make a background proteome, I'll quickly go through that. You go to add, you go to peptide settings, background proteome, add. Here you give some name like human proteome. Now you have to either create a protdb file or you have to open a protdb file. For the people who are using this for the first time, you'll create a protdb file. So you create it somewhere where you find it okay. So you navigate to the folder, then you give it the same name that you have given the file earlier, human proteome. So now proteome file is created, but you need to add the information about the proteins that will come from the FASTA file. The FASTA file I have shared with you guys. It's in the second folder. So it's in this second folder, background proteome. So you can just click on the FASTA file and it will start building. So this takes a bit of time, hence I'm not doing it live right now. It will start building. Once that is done, it will say, okay, the build is ready, and you can just click on OK and your proteome will be ready. In case that is not happening for you, what you can do another thing. You can just go to add, you can put a name, and you can open an already present proteome file. In this case, I have given you one FASTA file which can be used to build the proteome file in the first case that we saw, and the second is the protdb file which you can directly insert and use. So in this case, you can just open that protdb file, go to the, here you see the protdb file is already there. You can open it, and then there is no need to add any more FASTA files, and you can click on OK. So that will add your background proteome. So I have already created a proteome file like that, so I cannot create again. You guys can try this, and I think you will be able to generate a transition. So thank you. We'll take another session if possible later.
All right, thanks, Medha. So this was actually students only very beginning of introduction to the software. Just so that you can start downloading the software and start practicing it briefly. More detailed session about how to analyze the data will be in the next class for this activity. And also, Medha has given some other sessions in the previous workshops also. I'll actually share that link also so that you are a little more exposed. But nevertheless, we are going to have this more detailed data analysis session in the next class. Right now, given the timing is very tight now, so we will go through the HPA and proteome exchange, some of these resources which Deep is going to talk to you. followed by the quiz, which will happen. So thanks, Meda. We will take your session again next class. And Deep, please continue just refreshing about the Nextprot and Proteome Exchange, and if HP is working those resources.
Thank you, sir. Actually, unfortunately, Human Protein Atlas is still not working. So we'll not be able to show you, but as I have showed some demo and you have understood that it's a very user-friendly tool, which you can eventually go and check that. So we haven't kept any quiz question from Human Protein Atlas. So before brushing up Nextprot for the quiz, I will just show you another repository, which is Proteome Exchange. So this particular repository is the umbrella hub where different proteomics and mass spectrometry based database repository has been taken together, where all different types of mass spec data, which from shotgun proteomics data, DIA, targeted proteomics data, could be accessed. And as you can see, if you open proteomeexchange.org, if you go and click into the access data, so you will see that there is this particular repository also allows you to submit the data also, but today we'll talk about accessing the data. So for example, as you can see over here, there's a pie chart and the plots are given, which is giving you an idea about how many different kinds of species are there, how many different data sets are available, and which instrument has how many data sets, right? For example, if we talk about mus musculus, which it is having almost 2/4 field data. And to search for a particular, a topic or subject, you will, for example, let's see glioma, right? So if I'm selecting glioma, putting glioma over here and searching it, then it will give all the data sets which are available for glioma over here. And what is the aim of doing this, and how could it be help us? For example, this particular paper is having some of the experiments which we are very much keen to know, or we will be taking some of the leads from this experiment forward. And for that, we want to do some analysis, reanalysis of the data by downloading the raw file. So we have to click over here, PXD002293, which is the unique PRIDE ID or the Proteome Exchange ID. And over here, once you are clicking it, it is giving you the different information of the title, description. You can go directly, take the information out, and you can go directly to the manuscript over here by clicking into the PubMed, and you can read more about this particular paper to understand more about the data. But to access the data over here, there is a full data set link is there. So if you click over here, so that data set FTP location, if you're clicking, then it will directly allow you to download the data set by just if you know some of the command lines in Windows or Linux by using wget function, we can do that. Otherwise, you can click into the PRIDE link over here, as I have shown, and you can come down. And as you can see, all these data sets and the raw files are available, MZML files are available. So for example, if I need to go ahead and do the reanalysis, then I will select download all these raw files, and I will take it forward. For example, if I only want to see what is the output file looks like, unfiltered output file looks like, then I will take the result file and take it forward. So this is one of the most important accessibility of one of the most important repository which could be accessed for the data set, and could be taken forward for different kinds of meta analysis, integrated omics analysis, and different other reanalysis to give to take the information forward, which the manuscript or the study which has been published has not kept it. Has not analyzed or has not kept it forward, right? So this is something which is a pretty easy software. The only thing is that, for example, if you don't have any data set, but still you want to do some project or want to run some analysis, this is one of the most, important data set, that repository which you can search into, right? So now I will go to Nextprot. Now I will go to Nextprot, and I think Shashwati has shared you guys a link which is having a list of peptides. So last time, if you remember that we have, click into the protein digestion, and we have, showed a protein. We have just shown a protein, for example, like NX P50222, which is given in the example. But don't worry if it is not an isoform, but still it will work. If I am clicking a digest over here, though it is telling that impossible to get the data, don't worry about that. If you come down, it will take some time, and it will give the further options that will sorry, digest. Yeah, so as you can see, though it is telling that this particular is not having isoform, but don't worry, we are having a digested peptides information over here, where you can click trypsin, and finally you can come here and get peptides to get the list of peptides. So this is, I have already showed, and you are aware about this part. But today I will just give you another small demo of the another, where you have, for example, you have a list of peptides now from the shotgun data. I think as you have, if you have opened the link what Shashwati has shared, so you will see that there is a list of peptides, and this whole list of peptides, for example, if I am opening, so this is the list of peptides, as you can see, and I need to check which are the peptides that I can take it forward for my targeted proteomics analysis, right? So what I will do, I will select the whole list of peptides, I will paste over here, okay, and then I will click check. So this much simple, the tool is, and you can see that it is, analyzing the thing, and then after that it has given all the information available. But as you can see, for 10-15 peptides, we can see it, manually and visually. But when the number is more than 100, so it is better to if we download the data. So this is the output file that it will download. Also see these, this particular legends. That means the green star is filled, green star is unique. This one is pseudo unique, not unique. So these are this information are important if we want to check these things over here. But nevertheless, if we are downloading the the output file over here, and if I am opening it, then also the same information will be available for all the 211 peptides. So over here, the uniqueness without, so these headers are very important. This means uniqueness without variance. That means if there is no variance for this particular peptide, and this is uniqueness with variance. So there might be some protein which will be yes over here, but will be no over here, right? And also this is something which gives you an idea that how many isoforms are there, and what are these isoforms will be present over here. So this is a very important table. If I am going over here and doing a data A to Z, okay, so I will if I want to take the data forward, peptides forward, I will obviously remove this all no and only take the data which are present in yes. So this is a very important tool, and recent guidelines of Human Protein Project is asking the user to use this particular tool to filter all the peptides, and then on the basis of that take the unique peptides forward, right? So as you can see in this tool, both these two important tools we have checked for the peptide uniqueness checker and protein digestion. And I think both of them will be easier. And as you have seen that how Medha told about the Skyline, where you obviously need to know about these two tools to take the things forward for the Skyline. This much is more than enough to get an idea, and which will help you to like give correct questions for the quiz. And all the best for this quiz. So for one more thing is that whatever link Shashwati has shared for the peptide list, that particular peptide list has been given for the quiz also. So it will be easier whether if you have already done the analysis. Thank you, sir.
All right, some of these tools are very useful as you will be moving towards the research path. You will realize that these are very nice community resources. That's why we are trying to make effort to show you these things and make you more familiar with them. So quiz is going to be easy based on the file and the just the demos which have been shown. Please be careful and do it well. All right, that's what we will do it for today's lecture. You can leave after the quiz is done. If you have any queries, problem, put in the chat. We will be happy to answer.